Fine here. I'm coming at you with my Heaven's Gate in-depth look. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, really since I first bought the Criterion Blu-ray of this film. I've been wanting to talk about it and do a review on it, and I just decided, I was going to wait until I get, in the mood to do a full-on talk about the production and my opinion and everything about this film. And so today is the day. And so let's go ahead and get started. Heaven's Gate is a 1980 American epic western, and it portrays a fictional dispute between land barons and European immigrants in Wyoming in the late, 1890s, early 1890s, I think that's when it was. And it's basically a fictional version of the Johnson County War. And so that's pretty much what the film is about. That's what it, is based in. Now, there's a whole bunch of characters that interact, and it's all centered around this war, but that's basically what the essential plot is about. And for those of you guys who don't know, this film is directed by Michael Cimino, and he did the film in the 70s, early 70s, starring Jeff Bridges, I think it was, and Clint Eastwood, called Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. I think that's what it is. I actually never saw that movie. Correct me if I'm wrong, but down below. I never saw that movie, but it was a pretty good, acclaimed movie, I hear. And in the late 70s, I think in 79 is when he made The Deer Hunter, and that is one of the best movies ever, in my opinion. I love it, and he won an Oscar for it, and it won Best Picture. And basically, the studios were like, "Hey, you could do whatever you want with your next film." And so he was like, "Okay, well, how about Heaven's Gate?" And so that's the film that he wanted to do. And he originally intended it to be a more of a personal project, and pretty low budget and stuff like that. So they kind of gave him a lot of leeway. And they're like, "Do whatever you want, and however much it costs," basically, not knowing what was to come. Apparently, the making of this film, not apparently, it is one of the most notorious stories of filmmaking and making a movie that I've heard of in a long time, where the director was just so obsessed and so, I guess you could say in a way, destructive towards the making of this film. A lot of the actors in it, and I'll go ahead and let's talk about the actors real quick. The movie is headlined by Chris Christopherson, who I've never really, I'm not really into his music or anything like that, and I haven't really seen a lot of movies that he's been in. But he did very good in this film. He's basically the main star. We have Christopher Walken, we have Jeff Bridges, John Hurt, Sam Waterston as a really ruthless villain. We have Brad Dourif, Joseph Cotton. We have Terry O'Quinn, Mickey Rourke, Willem Dafoe, and just a cast, like a huge cast. And so, but apparently, during the making of this film, he was going super over budget. Apparently he was behind schedule the first day. They say basically the first day he was 4 days behind schedule, and the budget was skyrocketing, and he was so obsessed about making everything perfect, not in the Stanley Kubrick sense, but in the way of he wanted everything his way, and he was just so wasteful with a lot of things. Apparently they built a set, and it wasn't exactly how he wanted it, and I think the set designer or somebody was like, "We could easily just rebuild this little area right here and it'll be perfect," and he was like, "No." And he demolished this whole set that was just built, and it was millions and millions of dollars that he just destroyed, and they rebuilt it. And there was all this negative press because the movie was going to be his return. It was his follow-up to The Deer Hunter, so it was all in the press. And basically they just said he was just going crazy the whole time, and the movie went completely over budget when it was actually supposed to be one of the it was supposed to be a low budget kind of film. And He wanted endless retakes, endless shooting. There's so many demands by it. And I'm looking at my notes right here, and a lot of the controversy too with this film is that like he wanted it to be so authentic that like there was real animal fights, animals being killed. You know, all the animal rights groups were saying you cannot have all these animals being killed on screen, and um, just everything that you could possibly think of that can go wrong went wrong with this film. Um, you know, Entire trees were cut down for like huge, humongous trees were cut down for no reason because they were in the way, and so he would like spend like a whole amount of money and time cutting down random trees, and it's crazy. And he had an entire irrigation system built under this part of the field where there was like a little battle taking place, and it was just to keep it, you know, the grass green. And I know like a lot of people are probably like, well, that's because he wanted it to be perfect. Well, like it took a lot of time and a lot of money to make this happen. And basically, this movie had the kind of same press surrounding it that Apocalypse Now had. And Apocalypse Now, is now a classic. And so the movie was finally finished filming, and you know, it went over budget by like 13 million, and he wasn't like financially penalized for any of it. But the movie I think cost $44 million to make, and in its theatrical release, it made $3 million. $3 million. It came out, and the thing is that he has so much footage filmed. He wanted it to be like a 5-hour movie, and he cut it down to like a 3 hour and 40-minute movie, and he gave it to the studios. He was really happy with it, and studios were like, "No, this isn't good," and so they cut it. They cut the heck out of it, and they released it, and everybody hated it, and it was considered one of the worst movies of all time up until that point, like up to that point. And Roger Ebert, all these critics that usually love epic films, just destroyed this film, and it's always been known as like one of the worst movies ever and the biggest bombs ever. I think somebody said it'd be like if The Dark Knight Rises came out and it only made like 25 million at the box office. That's like the equivalent of how bad this movie did. And all these stars were connected to this. It destroyed Michael Cimino's career. It, bankrupted United Artists. And I think United Artists had a James Bond film coming out that year, and that was the only reason why they were able to not go bankrupt. And I mean, the insanity with this film. And so, for years, it's been hated. People have hated it. Eventually, it got a DVD release, and it had the 3 hour and 40-minute cut. It was unrestored. It looked awful. And it's always been hated. Everybody hates it. So my first experience with this film was I went and bought. No, I didn't buy it. I rented it from the library, and it was the DVD. And I started watching it, and I was like, this is the crappiest looking thing I've ever seen. It was so crappy looking. I mean, you see these huge scenes of, um, you know, that things that could look so beautiful, but the way it was filmed was so awful. It was given like a sepia tone and all this smoke, and it was like a constant haze over the production, it seemed like, and it just did not look good. It looked dirty. And, it was very, parts of it were very boring too because of that. And, the Deer Hunter is known for being boring in parts by a lot of people. I personally think every single shot in the Deer Hunter is perfect, and I don't think it's boring at all, but people say that it's boring. This movie makes the Deer Hunter in pacing look like, Happy Gilmore or something like that. And so I hated it, and I didn't even finish watching it. I watched like an hour and a half of it, and I was like, I can't watch this anymore. It looks awful, and it was mainly because it looked awful, and I was like, I can't do this. So I stopped and I put it away, and this was like a year and a half ago. Then I found out that Criterion was announcing that they were going to add it to their collection. And I was like, why are they adding the worst movie ever to their collection? Why are they doing that? Like, it's so bad. It's so awful. I can't even finish it. Well, um, the Criterion collection and a couple of film corporations got together and they were like, you know what, we're going to save this film. They started saying there's something about this film. It deserves more, notoriety, and it deserves to be seen the way it was supposed to be seen. And so they completely restored the film. Um, they even redid some of the cinematography, like the color, which was very good. And Michael Cimino was involved with it. He avoided the press for years. He did not give any interviews at all. To the point where, he was really close with John Cazale. Fredo, the actor who played Fredo is in Dog Day Afternoon, The Conversation, The Deer Hunter. He didn't even make any appearances when it came to when John Cazale died. He did not want to be in the public at all. He made a few crappy movies since that movie, but everybody hated it, and he just avoided everything. And apparently he contemplated suicide at so many parts, and it all came from this film and the production. And but these people saw hope in the film, and so they started restoring it and everything like that. And then they showed it and they previewed it, and it got good reviews. I think it was at some New York film festival or something like that, and they showed it, and they were like, "Wow, this is and it was to the full glory, like a 3 hour and 40 minute or whatever movie, and people started liking it and saying it's so underrated. It's never looked this good. It's a masterpiece. And the Criterion Collection jumped on board and they went ahead and released it. And basically, I've heard in interviews and stuff and special features and trivia that basically the Criterion Collection and the companies that restored the film saved his life, Michael Cimino's life, and gave him hope. And so the movie came out on Criterion, and I avoided it for a while. And I was like, you know what? I really want to give that movie a shot. Critics are starting to look at it again in a new light, and I really want to give it another shot. So I actually ended up buying the Blu-ray recently. I guess you could say about a month and a half ago. And it's a 2-disc Blu-ray, and it has been restored. It has some of the most beautiful scenery. I'll have, of course, there's pictures that I've had on this video that you could kind of see the scenery and how the restoration has completely brought new life to this film. And so I sat down one day, it's a long movie, and I watched it, and I did not turn it off from beginning to end. And now that it's restored and it's re-edited, and I can actually see the beauty in it, and I didn't have any bias against it. I knew the backstory, from beginning to end, and by the time I finished the movie, I was blown away. Blown away to the point to where, yes, I like this movie even more than The Deer Hunter. Even though The Deer Hunter it's a war movie, it has some of the best performances, it has my favorite actor, Robert De Niro, in it. Yes, I could say that I like Heaven's Gate even more because it's so epic and it's so amazing in scope, and it's finally getting what it deserves. And a lot of critics have taken back their opinions of the earlier versions, and they basically equivalent, they've said it's the same thing like happened once upon a time in America. It came out, people hated it, it was edited badly, and eventually, years later, it got the Cannes Film Festival edit, the correct edit, and now it's considered a masterpiece and one of the greatest films of all time. Now, this film still has a lot of people that hate it, mainly because of the pacing issues and stuff like that. And not a lot of people like Michael Cimino's directing style. But I can safely say this movie is literally a masterpiece now, and it's amazing. So basically, Chris Christopherson plays a guy who's going into this, the Johnson County area, and he's the new sheriff. and there's basically these there's a group of men that are part of this club that's backed by the government, who are basically taking land from immigrants, and this is the war. They're trying to take this land, all this land from the immigrants, and it's just turning into a bad situation, but it's backed by the government. It's basically like a little Holocaust that's going on. They basically said that the government gave them permission to kill. There was like a list of people, and they're sent to kill these people in order to get them off the property. And it was crazy. And so that's like the backdrop, and it's how the sheriff and different people that are involved. And Sam Waterston plays the lead guy, the lead villain, and he is ruthless. I'm a huge Law and Order fan, and I'm a huge Sam Waterston fan. But like he is just completely ruthless in this film, and it's just a great movie. And I really urge anybody out there who's seen it and hated it, pick up this collection, Criterion edition, watch it again in a new light, and just enjoy it. And just, I don't know, it left me kind of speechless when I was done, because I was like, man, I'm not the type of person to watch a movie again and then like it to the point of saying it's one of my favorite epic films. It's definitely the most beautiful film that I have on Blu-ray. Up until this point, the movie that I had that I thought was the best on Blu-ray, beautiful landscape-wise, was Terrence Malick's Days of Heaven. This beats it now, and it's just, I love it. In fact, I'm going to watch this movie again tomorrow because it's great. There's like a making of documentary on here, and it's not really a making of, it's more of like a Ken Burns style where there's pictures and there's narration, but it's like an interview, and it's Michael Cimino for the first time in like 20 plus years talking about this film, or just giving an interview anyways, and it's his take. And a lot of the destruction and hell that was going, surrounding this production was kind of falsified and exaggerated by the press, but a lot of it was true. And over time, I think he realized that, and that's why it was more of like he suffered so badly for it, because he knew what he did was wrong in a way. But it's just such a brilliant film, and I cannot believe I'm saying that. Like, I cannot believe I'm sitting here telling you guys. I mean, I would have never thought to make a video of this a year ago, because it was on one of my most hated lists. Even when I bought this, I think my wife was like, "Wasn't that movie that you hated?" And I was like, "Yeah." Thank you, Criterion. Thank you to who restored it. Let me see if I can find out who restored it. I know Criterion helped out, but I think there was a company first that started the restoration process before Criterion got involved. But I forgot who it was. But thank you. And this is one of those reasons why I love Criterion. They've basically released this film and saved a director's life, pretty much. And his, some people might be like, well, he didn't deserve it. His ego was so big. Well, whatever. I just think it shows what Criterion Collection does, and they really do a great job with everything they do, to the point where there's some personal stuff involved with it. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Been meaning to make it for a while. Anyways, I hope to see you soon. I should be starting up a new series, or the next season, I guess you could say, in my series of Top 5 Mondays. I've taken a break from it. Did a whole bunch, and so now I'm getting ready to return to doing it. And so, anyways, guys, I will see you in the next video, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Remember, there's 3 ways of doing things: the right way, the wrong way, and the Chattaway. See ya.